Hey guys, I decided to do the first installment of Uranus in Taurus. Now, you all know that Uranus is about money, it's about banking. Uranus is about a shake-up and a change. I found a very interesting article about things that may be going on with the World Bank, and it really piqued my interest because I thought, oh, World Bank, Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, aha, we have to know more. So the World Bank is one of the remaining structures that still have survived the Bretton Woods Agreement. Now, the president of the World Bank, his name's Jim Yong Kim, he stepped down quite early. He still had 3.5 years to run on his term, but he stepped down. The really important thing about that is it falls now to President Trump to appoint head of the World Bank, because the European Union appoint the head of the IMF, who's Christine Lagarde, and Donald Trump appoints the head of the World Bank. So just like the Supreme Court, where there's a lot of consternation because they don't want Donald Trump appointing people to the Supreme Court who might be pro-capitalist or conservative, there's the same consternation about him appointing a head of the World Bank. So it's going to be very interesting. It's also interesting because he is put Ivanka in charge of trying to find someone. Now, of course, the people in the Observer and the Independent were having a baby about that. They were saying, oh, oh gosh, all the words, it's crummy, it's crude, it's basically, oh, it's disgusting because Ivanka's been put in charge. But you can imagine in a similar situation if it was Hillary and she put Chelsea in charge of finding a new head of the World Bank, they would have all been saying that this was the best thing since sliced bread, wouldn't they? So more hypocrisy. So, as I said, the World Bank and the IMF are the last remaining structures out of Bretton Woods, which ended in 1971 under Nixon. So there are many that have been pushing for radical reforms, what they would call green reforms in terms of this World Bank. They wanted it to be all progressive, right? And they're interested in putting the resources of the World Bank and the IMF towards green issues. Now, we know that when they're talking about green, it's like a watermelon. It's green on the outside, red on the inside. It's all about communism, which means redistribution of wealth and probably a lot more waste. What they complain about is that so far all the World Bank does is oil the wheels of global finance. So for example, in the original Bretton Woods, there was a fixed exchange rate. The IMF was in charge of helping countries that were riddled with debt, and it helped them restructure and stop the capital flight. And the World Bank was in charge of giving development finance and helping stabilize commodity prices. It was all denominated in dollars, and the greenback was the only currency exchangeable for gold. Now, Keynes said that this was only going to last as long as America didn't start running a deficit. So when they started to run their big deficits after the Vietnam War and whatnot, it became not viable, and that's why Nixon ended it all in 1971. So at the time, Keynes was recommending that they have this multinational clearing union, and all international payments would be done in a common currency, which he called a bancor. But bear in mind, that was long before anyone ever thought of a digital currency. So what they're saying now is that they should have this like international unit, except it wouldn't be a bancor or a currency. It would be a digital currency. So here we see the link up with Uranus and Taurus and digital currencies and changes in the World Bank. So that was kind of what was recommended. The other major problem that they want to address through changes in the World Bank would be countries having persistent surpluses or deficits, and they'd look to find countries who have these and use that financing to reallocate elsewhere for like development or for green issues, right? Now, the US has always rejected all that, as would be predicted. I mean, they don't want any of that. A lot of people are saying that the IMF and the World Bank have been drivers of austerity, and with all the deregulation, privatization, they say that it has benefited the elite. So the progressives definitely want to change to this whole idea. They want massive intervention, international investment, and what they call a green transition. But I'm not really sure what that means. I think it kind of plays into this thing saying that you can throw money at a problem. And as we've seen with the problems in Africa, as much money as can be invested or diverted or sent over there, while there are corrupt governments and while money is not being used properly, and you are never going to get anywhere. And at the moment, because of all the problems, the key reason, I think, why certain countries are not developing is to do with poor governments instability, and the fact that no one wants to invest. I mean, we've all seen that there is possible for huge amounts of growth to occur in places of Southeast Asia. Countries have gone from zero to hero. Look at South Korea versus North Korea. When you have democracy coupled with a stable business environment, coupled with responsible governance, and an organized country which create a solid infrastructure, people will want to invest and the economy will grow. But I don't see how this is going to address it. And this whole thing about green, it's all about the environment, and it's also at the same time all about redistribution of wealth. I think it's a massive scheme of the globalists, of the UN, and it's going to further their plans, I think, rather than furthering the betterment of anyone in any individual country. So yes, so they're advocating, the progressives, this new Bretton Woods. They want a deal where all the idle savings in the IMF and the World Bank are converted into a digital currency, wherein all international payments are made and where funds are diverted to developing countries. The IMF would also issue this world digital currency, which who knows what that would be called. And as I say, big push here is to push it all into green investments. I say that it's kind of vague. Sound good, but like all these ideas, it's never really thought through, and there are always gremlins in the system. You know, the whole thing is going to be designed to kind of create a global structure to push us towards globalism. I think that's what's at the heart of it. Also, redistribution of wealth. So the World Bank is about to change. However, it's not going to change, I don't think, in the way that all these progressives have it envisioned for all its green business. If Donald Trump appoints the head, we can guarantee that it will evolve in a different way, in a way more pro-capitalism nation state, which is a good thing. Haven't heard a lot more on the appointment, but we can look out for that. And this is a clear example of Uranus in Taurus. And this, for once, a change that might actually benefit the world in the way we see it. I also noticed that Bitcoin it's sort of snaking up a little bit again. It hasn't reached exactly the highs that it was on end of 2017, but it's beginning to recover a lot. And so all the underlying cryptocurrencies also beginning to recover and move up again. So we haven't seen the end of Bitcoin, and we certainly haven't seen the end of a world digital currency, which could be coming as a result of Uranus in Taurus.